Welcome to Trench Talk. I'm here with my friend Kurt Litton, owner of JetStream Irrigation. And Kurt, geez, did we meet on a trip for the first time?
Yeah, I think it was. It was a Mexico trip, I believe.
Mexico or Jamaica?
Maybe.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's always nice when you get to meet when nobody's working and our hair's down, and you can see Kurt and our hair's been down for some time now. So, a little bit of setup before we get into the Q&A. Just out of curiosity, if you could just kind of give us a little bit of the history of your organization.
Yep.
And then just for those listening, like we don't have to talk financial numbers by any means, but just kind of size of your organization,
Okay.
mix of commercial to residential, and how many accounts you maintain, because we're in a seasonal market here in Michigan.
Yep.
So you get 2 touches a year. Sorry, warm climate guys. We get the winters off and we get residual revenue. But with that in mind, give us a little bit of background on your organization.
Well, we've been around for 38 years. I started the company back when I was in college. We did sprinkler work for the first couple years, then got into all phase design, build, landscaping. A lot of the contractors in our area were kind of jack of all trades and focus on delivering all services to the customer. Other areas I've noticed are more
single line of business.
Single line of business, yeah. So, but we did all phase design, build, landscaping, including robust sprinkler division till 2017. And then in 2017, I felt like a change was necessary. We had a lot of moving parts. We had our irrigation division continued to grow without me pushing it. I was working hard on the other areas of the company. And we just, a couple key people and I got together and we decided to focus on sprinklers and a couple other minor things, sprinklers and lighting only, really.
So the better part of the last decade, your focus has been irrigation primarily and landscape lighting secondary.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's been fun. As soon as that happened, the whole company, we're all rowing in the same direction. We're all talking the same language parts. We're not talking about paver bricks and trees and plants and hydroseed, and that's all fine, but this really became fun, and really from 2017, 2018 to now, I've never had more fun in the sprinkler business, but in the sprinkler business. Because
why is that?
I enjoy getting up every day and going out and doing what we do. It's a silly thing to think that we put sprinkler heads in the ground and water people's lawn and I'm somehow making an impact in the world. But it's certainly a lot of fun doing it, and
Absolutely.
It's fun helping people. And when people are buying sprinklers, it's not like their refrigerator burned out and they're stuck with a $1,200 or $2,200 bill that they have to pay. They're doing it because they want something nice and they have a little bit of income to make their lawn and their surroundings and their lawn nice and so forth. So we like doing that for them. We like providing that.
And, for those that haven't seen the presentation I do on company culture and onboarding new employees, you were generous enough to let me interview you over the phone. And, you talked a lot about, through my coworkers, I said, hey, you got to talk to Kurt. He's got his employees are very engaged. The culture is wonderful. And I've actually gotten to experience that a couple of times now when I've come to Grand Rapids to do some trainings. I mean, you bring the whole team.
Yeah.
So to give people kind of a scope of your business, how many people do you employ?
15.
Okay. And with that said, how many irrigation systems do you maintain for those annual 2 visits a year?
2,500.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
Yeah, 2,500. We have 8 service technicians, each in their own van. A couple helpers will sprinkle around between those 8 vans depending on the day, and then a robust installation crew of 5 or 6 guys depending, that go out and do installation and so forth.
Mix of residential to commercial?
Probably in the service area, it's probably 70% residential, 30% commercial.
Okay.
In the installation department, it's probably 90% residential and 10% commercial.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we're really here today to talk about flat rate pricing and why it's awesome and why time and material sucks, but I'm not going to tell you that.
Yeah.
I'm going to let somebody who lived through it tell you that. So I actually came prepared today and have a list here. So we'll start off with this. So what inspired you to make the shift from time and material billing to flat rate pricing? And was there a specific moment or a pain point that pushed you to say, it's time to give it a try.
Yeah. It was actually just our quest for doing things kind of best, always searching for best practices. Never making the same mistake twice, streamlining things, making things standardized. Years ago, I read a book and it talked about how, the French fry that you eat at McDonald's in San Jose, California tastes exactly the same as the one in Detroit, Michigan for a reason. There's a system in place. And so I became intrigued with that idea. And so flat rate pricing was another step for us to simplify the way that we were quoting our work, simplify a bunch of administrative processes here in the company, and simplify some things for the customers as well. It checks so many boxes at once and so forth. When I first heard about it, like a lot of people that don't do flat rate pricing yet.
Can you explain what flat rate pricing is?
Yeah. So flat rate pricing, and I have a little cheat sheet here, so I want to kind of read this because I think this aligned some of my thoughts. But the way I would put it is, it's a method or a style of quoting work that results in a multitude of benefits to all parties in the transaction. And that's really cool, and I'll go into that, but it's really cool when you can do something for your customers that benefits them and benefits you and benefits your people.
100%.
And benefits your office. I mean, those things don't, not all things do that. So how it works. So each sprinkler repair task that you would have or that you would do on a property, every task is given a set price to execute that task. And that set price includes the materials, includes any supplies, like whether it's clamps or wire nuts or whatever, and it includes the labor, all forged into one price. And when we started getting into this, there were some other companies that kind of introduced us, not the idea to us, but how they were doing it, and gave us some ideas. But we examined the service work we performed day in and day out, and we found that there's really only 120 repetitive tasks that we were doing that we needed to quantify into one singular price. And so a simple example there is replace a 4-inch rotary sprinkler head. Doesn't matter what brand you use.
Right.
We use PGPs and I-20s, Hunter products and so forth, and love those. But replacing a 4-inch rotary sprinkler head, so you develop a price for that one thing. And in our instance, you take the sprinkler head and you have the cost, but what we're doing is we're building up a price that we want to give to our client. So whatever I decide to charge for that sprinkler head, say $25, maybe in the changing of that sprinkler head, maybe I can unscrew the casing and put in a new casing or unscrew the whole head and put the whole head in. But I have to take it into account the fact that sometimes that head has to be dug up, or it's a different company brand, or it's a different size, or it's too low or too high. So I have to dig that head up. So I'm going to throw in 2 fittings and 4 clamps in there. So
just to cover the bases of worst case scenario.
Yeah, worst case scenario. Yeah, so it's a sprinkler head, it's 2 fittings and 4 clamps, and then you put the labor on there. And the labor, to build the labor in for an upfront, a flat rate price, you have to really think about your technicians, and then you have to take the labor time that it would take one of your younger or newer or more modestly experienced technicians and use that amount of labor.
Again, another worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario, that's right. So you do that. And so we put 20 minutes of labor in to change a 4-inch rotary sprinkler head. And whatever your labor rate is, let's say your labor rate's $90 an hour. So you take $30 and add that in with the cost of the sprinkler, the fittings, the clamps, and so forth. And maybe then you come up with a unit price for changing a 4-inch sprinkler, $65 to do that. So that encompasses everything. So maybe, here's another example. Fix a poly line leak. 3 feet of poly, might not need 3 feet, might need 1 inch.
But 3 feet.
3 feet covers, 4 fittings, 8 clamps, put those materials in, 20 minutes labor, came up with $53 for that service.
So is there, do you factor overhead and
That's
things of that nature
our
into
overhead
those.
is built into our overhead and profit is built into the cost of our labor rate.
Got it.
And
Okay, so it's accounted for.
It's accounted for 100% and in the materials, right?
Got it.
A lot of the old time financial guys, Jerry Gata, I forget the first guy that started, Charles Vanderkoy and so forth. And those fellas would tell you that we're in the business of selling labor. That's what we do. You mark up parts, some modest amount, but you really want to account for what you're doing because you're managing and selling labor to people. You're selling that service of repairing those sprinkler heads. So we make sure that we have a healthy labor rate built into that encompasses all the burden of the labor and so forth in there. So yes, that's built in.
Understood.
You could come up with your sprinkler head price at 60 or 65 and just say, we're just going to add an extra cushion of 10% or 20% to make that profit even higher if you like.
And simplify it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing, and I've got a bunch more questions for you. I think it's really important for everybody listening to understand that if you're not running a CRM software, good luck trying to implement flat rate pricing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. So I wanted to back up for a second, and you're calling it flat rate pricing, and that's
upfront.
that's what it's commonly called in the industry. Flat rate pricing. HVAC companies do it. A lot of different plumbers do flat rate pricing. You go to the dealership, you say, hey, we need to change this belt. They look in a book and they say the price for that, our flat rate price for that is $185 or whatever. So we changed the name for our purposes, and we call it upfront pricing. And we do that because, I guess for us, what we tell our customers and show them and share with them is we're going to look at your situation, your sprinklers. We're going to find out if there's any deficiencies or problems, and then we're going to give you a price up front before we do any work.
Now, is there an initial charge then to show up because there's an outside factor that they might say, no, I don't want it?
Yep. So you have to pull some of these things together, right? So in upfront pricing, if you have every task built in to a price, an upfront price, then what is your labor rate? If a customer calls on the phone and says, hey, what's your labor rate? We say, we really don't have one. We have a price for each task that will perform for you. And getting into the benefits, there's a benefit to that later, and that you're not squabbling with people over price. But back to your question.
Okay, so the transition process.
Oh, yeah, in the CRM and
yeah. So how did you roll out the upfront pricing to your team?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of training or mindset shift was needed?
Yeah.
Initially,
I think more of the hesitation probably was on my part, was on the principles of.
Am I going to make the same money?
Yeah, am I going to make the same money? And in the talking that I've done with people about it since we've been on board, people have a tendency, other business owners have a tendency to say, oh, my customers would never go for that.
Right.
As if their customers are different than my customers. They're just not. We're all people that want to get good value and clarity in what we're buying and so forth. And so there's that hesitation there. Oh, what if it takes 30 minutes to put that head in? You only have 20 in there. But when you go into a system and you say you have 68 sprinkler heads in your lawn and 10 of them aren't rotating or 10 are chopped off or whatever the situation is, and you replace 10 of them times 30 minutes, 300 minutes, that's 5 hours of labor. It's not going to take that fella 5 hours to do it, but you're billing for 5 hours. So
that's where it can increase your profit margin.
Dramatically. Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced during the transition? And did you lose any customers during the switch?
Yeah. First of all, with the technicians, they all blended the idea into their daily work routine without, there's very little intrepidation for it. We all have, our technicians all carry a tablet. I imagine most companies do carry a tablet with a CRM, a program that takes care of and logs all our customers and their information in there and a work order and so on. So they already are using tablets. We entered the 120 upfront codes into the CRM system. They're on a job site. They're looking at a project. They've got 2 heads. They put in 2 in the upfront code for replace a head, 2 fixed line leak in the upfront code there, and 1 replace spray head, and put that code in, and boom, there's a number, and they give them the number, and it's very simple and it's very easy.
So it streamlines it.
It streamlines it and so forth. And, the benefits to the multitude of benefits across the board, but to the technician is he's not standing on the front porch scratching his head or in the van for an hour calculating, well, I need 3 clamps for that. I need 6 fittings for that. I forgot the wire nuts, and so on and so forth. He's quickly putting together a quote for a customer in short order and getting an approval, or perhaps we'll wait a little while, but getting his hands back in the dirt and doing repairs, and not sitting in a van all day working up quotes and scratching his head, and he's not good with math or whatever, but he's great with sprinkler heads.
So on the customer response and impact,
Yeah.
how did your customers initially respond to the pricing? And have you found that upfront pricing builds more trust or transparency with your homeowners?
Yeah, exactly. I think you answered your own question. I can't even tell you a single story of getting pushback from customers on the upfront pricing model.
I mean, I look at it, and I think
Yeah.
you articulated this at the Irrigation Mastermind Conference, because to give people an idea, Kurt was part of the largest irrigation peer group in North America, which took place in January of this year in Boston. And there were 27 organizations from North America, a few in Canada, most US based. But the survey question was, how many of y'all are using upfront pricing? And it was about 60% of the room. And by the conclusion of the 2.5-day peer group, the other 40% were going back to their office to implement it.
Yeah.
And I thought, I look at it from, let's just look at a different line of business, like tires or brakes, right?
Okay.
If I call Firestone and I say, hey, I've got a RAV4 2018, it's got 19-inch rims, in 2 minutes, they can tell me exactly what it's going to cost, right? And it doesn't matter. And then when I drop my vehicle off, I don't care if they have it for 2 hours or a week, because I know whether I pick it up or my significant other. Yeah. When it's done, it's $1,200.
That's right.
Right, and so
clarity.
You almost have to look at it from a consumer's perspective. Like in this, and I see this happen all the time, where somebody calls your an irrigator's office, and they just moved into a house, or their system hasn't worked for years, and they have no clue. They're like, hey, do you repair sprinklers? Yes, we do. We're $150 an hour, and it's time and material. Think about the pucker factor on a consumer. Now you show up at my house. Yeah. I don't know if this is going to be $200 or $2,000. Yeah. And now I'm bird dogging your employees the entire time as I'm pacing and going, well, that guy's not doing anything. That guy's, like,
for sure. All those things go out the window.
But I mean, you could expand on that.
Yeah, I can expand on it. So when the benefits to the customer, I mean, there's a great benefit to us, and we'll get to that. But the benefits to the customer are, as you described, the clarity when you say to a customer, and I'll do it sort of as if I was talking to the customer.
Yeah.
So I go to the front door and I say, hey, we just went through your sprinkler system, and you asked earlier, we charge a fee, a service call fee to show up. A service call or a trip charge, whatever you want to call it.
Show up and diagnose.
To show up and diagnose. And that is everybody can place their own number on that. If it could be $50, it could be $100, whatever you decide. Sometimes diagnosing something takes longer than that, and you can maybe let that go. Or if it's something deep like a wiring issue or whatever, then you work up a quote for that. But needless to say, you show up on site, you go through the system, you say your system really works great. I program your timer, but here's what's going on. Zone 4 has 1 broken rotor. Zone 5 has 1 broken spray head. Zone 6 has 1 polyline leak. And Zone 7, the solenoid is burned out. So I've calculated through upfront pricing what each one of those are, and it totals up to $222 to repair those 4 items and get your system 100% operational for the whole summer. Ready to go. And the gal would often say, 1 second, honey, Yep, he's here now. He just got done, said the system works pretty good. He said there's 4 issues and the total would be $222. What's that? Yep. 222 exactly? Yeah, 222 exactly. Exactly. Yep, exactly. No, it won't be any more? No, he said it won't be any more. 222. Okay. You're sure? 22. Yep, okay, great. Do it. Do it. The clarity that comes in for that fella or wife or whoever at work or homeowner at home or whatever, and taking that call and getting a set price and knowing what it's going to be, there's no surprises there, right? That's peace of mind, right?
Sure.
But also, once you deliver that for 222, now you've built trust with that customer. You didn't try, but you did. You built trust. You told them you do something. You told them you do it for a certain price, and you delivered.
And so now role play that same situation for your company before flat rate.
Yeah. So, hey, I went through your system. It works good. You got a broken head in zone 3, and the head's about $20. I'm going to work you up a quote. It'll take some fittings, some clamps, maybe a little bit of pipe. I'm not sure. Maybe that stuff will cost about $25. That's about 45. Maybe a half hour labor at about $50 in there. That's about 90. We're around $90. Let's see the spray head. We got another $20-$30 there. I don't know. All told, it's probably going to be around $300 give or take. $300 give or take. How's that sound? And what that sounds like to that homeowner is you either don't know what you're doing, or you don't know your own pricing, or I'm scared that you're going to come back and say, yeah, it was more than I thought. It's $600. So you take away.
Feels like a bait and switch.
Yeah, it does.
You lose
take away
trust,
all that,
even if they go with it.
You take away all that cloudiness and so forth in the customers. It's really easy to say yes right at the moment than to do something, bill them, send it to them, and then have them look back at it a month later and go,
"We're not paying that."
When I didn't agree to that, he said it would be $150 and it's $350. So we rip that Band-Aid off immediately. It'd be $222 exactly to take care of these problems today. I can do it right now. I can be out of here. You could write a check while I'm doing the work, and I'll be back to the door in an hour.
And I gotta imagine for your service technicians who just want to execute good work and give good customer service, it's got to be a sigh of relief, because if they say, hey, it was going to be it would be around $500.
Yeah.
And then they come back after the work and it's $550.
Yeah.
You said it was going to be $500, and now you've put them in this headbutting situation.
They want to be technicians. They don't want to be accountants. They don't want to be sitting in the van with
certainly
the calculator
not arguing with homeowners
and arguing with homeowners and so forth. And we don't want to have certainly. Maybe this isn't true of all irrigators, but in our company and a lot of the companies that I talk to in Boston and so forth, we want to be perceived and thought of in this industry as trustworthy, ethical, do what we say what we do, deliver a good, valuable service to homeowners at a reasonable price. So this customer is easier to say yes to a repair when the exact price is known. It just is. It's so much easier to say, oh, it's $222. Yep, I'll do that. Versus around $300. I wonder.
Are there exceptions to the rule? Like you walk onto a property you've never been on before, and you gotta locate some wire, right? Or how do you handle those? Yeah, so
that's a good question. It's really it becomes a two-step upfront price. It becomes a two-step upfront price, and those would be one of the codes that. So for wire locating, we have a wire locating code, and it's just 1 unit of wire locating. And that 1 unit of wire locating is, in our world, it's 1 hour of time. So that one upfront code, whatever your labor rate is, 1 hour of time. So we go in and we say, okay, we've gone through the system, and zone 3 has a broken head rotor, zone 5 has a broken spray head, zone 6 is a poly line leak, zone 7 won't come on electrically. We have to wire locate that. So I put into the quote, replacing the 2 heads, fixing the line leak, and 1 hour of investigation wire locating time to find that valve. And we'll find that valve in that 1 hour. And that quote totals $222 or whatever it is. Then as soon as we find that valve, that's the quote. And if this is written The guys will do it in the field. The ladies sometimes fire it over from the office if they want to think about it, if they don't say yes. And at the bottom of the quote, it'll say, once zone 7 is located, a second quote will follow.
Got it. So you're transparent with it. Like,
second quote to follow. Because we don't know if there's heads broken in that zone. We don't know once we get to that valve, is it just the solenoid shot, or is a wire snipped, or whatever. So the second quote to follow. And it's really 2 upfront prices. So we give them one, and we say we can't know what's in that zone that doesn't turn on yet.
Yeah, as soon as
and
we
that's
know
reasonable.
more, as soon as we know more, we'll give you that number.
Yeah. So it becomes 2.
So I'm curious of this. So you've got 120 quotes or codes in the system. Yep. How many different broken pipe prices do you have? And have your employees in the onboarding process, and some of your employees that are newer, have the screw ups been painful?
Yeah, no, they haven't. No, everything washes out in the end. It's the error is usually on the side of earning more, not earning less. Oops, we did really well on that one. Oops, yeah, we did really well on that one. Oops, we went really well on that one too. So the fixing poly pipe and so forth, we have in the poly pipe area, and we just call that section of our upfront codes leaks. So it could be a leak at a vacuum breaker. It could be a leak of a poly pipe, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 2 inch.
So do you have backflow numbers in there and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So there's a code for virtually everything that we would do. There's a couple extraneous codes. The one I mentioned is a wire locate code, and 1 unit is 1 hour. We have.
So you might, if it's some big commercial site and it's multiple zones, you
put in 3.
That's where it's kind of on the employee to understand.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been on something like this before. Let's cover our butt.
Put in 4 hours. Four codes. 4. Say 4. Wire locate, non-operating valves or whatever. So there's another situation though, and this commonly gets brought up by guys that are doing time and materials and are hesitating to switch over to upfront or flat rate pricing. And that is, what if the ground's really hard and it takes me a long time to dig that head up?
Nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Or there's tons of roots, or it's gravelly or whatever. So we have an upfront code there, and that upfront code is hard ground, roots, or something else, gravel or something. And that's basically that's 1 unit. And so if you have like 3 heads going in, and they're going into very challenging areas with hard ground or clay or roots or whatever, then we just say 3 heads there, and then you put 3 hard ground, roots, and so forth. And it adds a measure of additional labor onto that quote for that particular situation. Again, at first you think, is this all going to work? Is it all going to wash out? And it will absolutely positively wash out on the positive side for your company. It just will, flat.
In summarization of that, I mean, it just makes sense. You realize that there are, because that's the biggest, when I talk about it with people digitally or in social media, the blowback typically is that you're screwing your customer, or how do I handle a job site I've never been on where I got to locate wires or trace main line or whatever it is. But you have labor rate codes in there.
Yeah.
And so it's at that point, it's on the service technician to basically say, how many times am I clicking the wire locate 1 hour button here?
Yeah. And those things are, I won't say they're rare, but they're, it's not the everyday thing. It's, you're replacing some heads, you're moving some heads. We have codes for moving heads, 5 feet or less. 10 feet or less. If it's moving 2 heads, 10 feet each, then we just, in the code is 5 feet or less, we put in that 4 times because it's 2 heads. Everything works out. And it's great for the technicians of varying degrees of skill level. So all those young techs that are learning the field, they know how to fix a sprinkler head, but they don't know how to sit and do a quote. This is easy to say. It's 2 broken heads.
It takes that off the table.
It's gone. It's simple.
They got a tablet.
Yep.
And pictures.
Just ping, ping, ping. And they do it. And so it also makes all of the coding that goes on in your company identical, standardized, like that French fry in San Jose and that French fry in Detroit. It's the same. It's the same code. It's the same. It doesn't matter which technician goes to the job. It's quoted 2 heads, this, that, price comes back the same.
So your ability to scale becomes
Yeah.
exponentially easier because
Comes
you
better,
have
yeah.
processes.
Yeah, process to follow. Yeah, yeah, and they're standardized. The technicians also. I I mentioned earlier about sitting in the van creating a quote, and so I have here that assembling a quote, the time to assemble a quote is reduced dramatically, right? So the result there is you can see more customers during the day because you're spending less time sitting in a van writing up a quote for somebody.
More increasing your
Yeah,
billable hours.
that's good for the company, but that's good for your customers because we know in spring startup time anyway, in a 7 month,
Yeah.
6 month market here, that we have to get 2,500 systems turned on in
2 months.
if that, because at the tail end of that 2 months, those customers really, they want you there, right? So if we can service more customers more efficiently, more simply, and more standardized, it's good for them, it's good for us, it's good for the efficiency of the company, the technicians. Having this simplified style or method of quoting is less stressful for them too, especially guys. Not everybody's great at math. That doesn't mean they're not great sprinkler technicians.
Well,
right?
and how many guys that, when they forget to add the wire or the clamps,
Yeah.
or, oopsie,
This is all built in.
oopsie, you know what I mean? A couple of fittings
Yeah.
here or there,
Yeah.
an MP rotator nozzle. I mean, that would be a bigger ticket item,
yeah.
but
yeah.
So-
Wire nuts are often forgot. So on all the underground connectors, they're not free, right? So, but on all the things that have to do with valves and solenoids and wire locating and wire repairs and stuff, we have tons of wire nuts built into those upfront codes to cover all those little things that get forgotten.
So talk to me, what did you see in terms of profit margin impact percentage wise when you made that transition and you had it in play?
Yeah, if I had a hard number for you, I would tell you our profits rose by probably 30%.
30%.
30% in our service department. I'm not lying.
That's insane.
I really don't think that's an exaggeration.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to talk on this because
Yeah.
at the irrigation mastermind, there were a lot of vocal people, but
Yep.
I felt like you did the best job of explaining it to somebody who didn't understand it.
It's a game changer. So, I mean, here the thing about doing something like this is, you could say something like, "Hey, we're going to have all our technicians have booties in their vans, and then when they go in the house to turn on the water or whatever, they're going to put these booties on." That's wonderful for the customer. It doesn't really do anything for the technician. Doesn't help him in any way.
Right.
Doesn't do anything for the company. It costs the company money. Right. But it's good for the customer. But flat rate pricing or upfront pricing is good for everybody. It's good for every person. We talked about how it's good for the customers and how the technicians, it's good for them. The office staff. Now we're talking about the office staff and how do they benefit? What's good for them? Phone call comes in. Hey, I need a turn on or whatever. Hey, how many zones do you have? That's $100 to do that. How much would it be to replace a head? I remember from last fall that I have one broken head, $65. Oh, okay. To change the whole head, that labor,
no pucker
nothing.
factor.
But the girls that maybe have never put a sprinkler head in the ground themselves can refer to a chart and give out a price, and give that clarity and that satisfaction to that customer. And it's nicer for them too. They don't feel so like, well, I think it'll be about half an hour, and they can give a nice price too, right? It also upfront pricing, I think, eliminates price shopping and people that are calling and kicking the tires and bothering the girls for pricing and so forth. What's your labor rate? What's your labor rate per hour?
Yeah, they're just calling around asking all these time and material companies.
Yeah, how many heads can you put in an hour and things like that? So it eliminates that when they ask what's your hourly rate, and we say we really don't have an hourly rate. We have every
upfront pricing.
Upfront pricing, and everything that we do has one set price. And you know what? If we come turn your system on for X dollars that we just talked about, when we go through the system, we're going to get done and we're going to come back to you and we're going to say, everything works great, nothing else needs to be done, or you have two problems and here's the exact price. Before I'll do anything, you can approve it or you can say we're going to wait or whatever.
So they can run on it right there, which is when the homeowner wants it done. And I feel like when that's always a difficulty in a seasonal market when you're not using an upfront price to, okay, we got a set number, covers 1 hour to turn on your system. And then the technician winds up having to have a conversation with the homeowner saying, hey, everything's good, but you got a couple broken heads on zone 2 and zone 7. So we turn those off on the controller, and the office is going to send you a quote. And if you want to move forward with that work, it'll happen 30 days from now.
Yeah.
You know, because they're running and gunning.
So everybody, every company will do something different. Like one company will say, you stay there and you fix that person's system until it's done. And they will take and they'll sacrifice the 3 or 4 other customers that may be scheduled after them and get them rescheduled some other time. Our process is not to do that. We like to stay on schedule. We can always fix 1 or 2 or 3 sprinkler heads or replace them in the time that we're there to turn it on, and maybe our day goes a little long. But if we get into a system where we say, hey, you have an 8-zone system, we ran through, you have 2 broken heads on every zone, non-rotating, whatever they are, so that's 16 heads, and you have 1 polyline break or 2 polyline breaks. In our minds, we know that will take a half a day to do, or 3 or 4 hours, and that's going to take those 3 or 4 other customers later that afternoon and push them out the door, and that's not good. We don't want that. So we as a company don't schedule technicians on Fridays, and all of the work that gets built up during the week that goes beyond the just fixing 2 heads, that's fixing 8 heads or 10, we call those write-ups. Those get done on Friday.
So all that week. So everybody you had planned on turning on that week not only gets turned on, but the unforeseen issues that are going to take longer. Friday is due day. That's pretty cool.
It works really well. It really works well. And these things didn't happen overnight and so forth. Each year we're like, well, we need to schedule more time for each of these jobs. Well, what if they don't need the work, right? The system works fine. We don't want to schedule time that's not needed either. So you massage it one way or the other, and we come back to that spot where we have to have a gap in the week where we can go back and take care of problems that arise, or bigger problems that weren't foreseen, right?
And I think as a consumer, even if you turn me on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, any one of those days, I'm real happy when I hear from you that it's all going to be fixed by days on Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
You know what I mean? Like, that to me is an example of great customer service.
Yeah, and you're providing transparency and clarity when you say, hey, I would normally stay and get this stuff done for you, but it's about 12 heads here, and that's going to take about a half a day, but I'll be back on Friday to do that for you.
Yeah.
And each technician knows that we used to sometimes move technicians around based on scheduling and so forth, but we work really extra hard now to send that same technician back that did that write-up and so forth. That may seem logical, but once you're scheduling and people are being demanded and pulled this way and that way, and this guy's in this area this day and this guy's in this area this day, you think, well, we'll just have him stop by and do that job. But we work really hard to make sure the technician that wrote that job up is back that week. And therefore, that technician, when he's there on Tuesday and says, you have these heads, I'll be back on Friday to fix them, he can say that with confidence. They can feel
that's my guy, because I know Fred's coming back. Fred's my guy. I know how that goes, because I've been in the family irrigation business my whole life, and we would get that call all the time, like, all right, we'll send somebody out. Well, I want Mike. Make sure you send Mike. You know what I mean? Everybody picks their favorites. They want their guy.
So in addition, for the office staff, our CRM and the way that we
do you mind sharing which one you use?
We use Hindsight.
Okay.
Is it Field Central?
Yeah, the cloud-based one.
Yeah, the cloud-based Field Central, and we like it an awful lot. And there's others out there that are great too.
But get on a CRM.
Get on a CRM for sure. Yeah, I understand. We're in conversations with some companies right now that are have been around a long time, and they're getting ready to retire and so forth and move out of the business. And some of those people that we're talking to about, taking over their customers and so forth, they're not getting into CRMs and they're not getting into flat rate pricing now. They're at the tail end of their work career and they're not looking to reinvent the wheel.
Sure.
But for anybody that's not going to get out of the business in the next year, it's the way of the future.
So really CRM first, upfront pricing second.
Yeah, so that we enter into all those upfront codes into the CRM. And so the upfront code, the way we build that up is it has a labor element and it has a material element in it. And our CRM has that breakdown of those two things. So when the technician gives the customer a quote for replacing 12 rotors, 4 spray heads, moving to fixing a line leak or whatever, that comes back to the office. The girls can hit a button on the CRM and it pops out how much labor was built into all of those upfront codes together. Here it is, 7.5 hours. They can look at it and go, I need to schedule this guy on Friday for 7.5 hours. He's got another 2 hours to do somebody else that
So
day.
that cleanup day on Friday
Yeah.
is really accurate because of
Super
the
accurate.
timestamps affiliated with each service.
Yeah, and guess what? Typically, the guys will get that done quicker than the upfront price.
Which is where we see that 30% profit
That's
increase.
right. We'll get it done quicker. And the other part of that is they're already on site. Their shovel's already in their hand. Their hands are already dirty, right? They've already conquered some of those economies of scale by already being there. Hey, I replaced this head. This head's 10 feet away. I'm replacing this head. And so you've got all the tools and stuff right there. So you can save time, right, with excess work. So you mentioned earlier a customer following you around and so forth. So if you have an upfront price and you say, hey, I've got this and this and this and this, it'll be $222 to do it. You never tell them how long it's going to take. You never tell them
You don't need to.
You don't need
They don't
to.
care.
And they don't care.
Yeah, as a consumer, once you give me a number, I don't care if you're at my house for 12 hours or 2.
Yep.
As long as the number's good.
Before upfront pricing for us, customers would call and say, hey, I take exception to the repair ticket. The guy that was here, he did the work, but he wasn't here an hour and a half. He was only here an hour and a quarter. He was here 15 minutes less than you said.
And now they want to argue on the
on
T&M
15
price.
minutes. And so the girls in the office are arguing with the customer over a 15-minute thing and taking time on the phone and not
Away from their other tasks.
That's right. So none of that all goes out the window now. Nobody even asks how long it's going to take, or it took you a long time, or boy, that was quick, or anything. So that's a blessing to the girls in the office. And I say girls, it could be guys in the office.
Sure.
We have girls
just
in our
office staff.
office. Yeah, our office staff. So just in a real general sense, the CRM and everything, there are thousands of sprinkler parts that we could employ at any given moment to effect a repair, but there's just 120 codes. And that simplifies a lot of things in the office for the girls when they're creating a quote with 120 codes rather than 1,200 sprinkler parts and line iteming, wire nuts and this fitting and that fitting and a different fitting and a PVC fitting and poly fitting.
It expedites their processes too.
Again, yeah.
Is there any part of it that was painful
No.
or doesn't make sense?
No.
I mean, when you look at
No.
industries like HVAC and plumbing, they adopted this 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, there's none. And I mean, the only pain point is like, why didn't I do this sooner? Right? That sort of thing. That's always the
But
always the way.
I'm going to squirrel on you
Yeah.
in a couple minutes. So, but I want to make sure that you articulate everything that you think anybody needs to know about that upfront pricing. I mean, I think you beat it up pretty good. I remember at the mastermind conference, I think it was Trevor, the owner of Blue Jay out of Canada. And I thought he had the most beautiful statement. He goes, because one of the guys was arguing in their early phases, like that's not the way to do it. And he goes, when you build time and material, you have capped the amount of revenue that you can generate in a year. You might have some admiration of growing your company by 15%, but it's a math equation, he said. He goes, it's very simple. He's like, how many employees do you have? And how many billable hours can you get out of those employees? Before the season even starts, if you have a bang up year, you already know what your ceiling is.
That's it.
Because you can't make up more hours.
It's absolutely true.
You know, and that was like a light bulb moment for me hearing that from him.
Yeah.
Whereas for all the reasons you said,
Yeah.
you're not putting a cap on that.
No, you're not.
I mean, 30% profit margin increase is in service.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you go to sell your business, right? You're getting pennies for the dollar on your installation work because it's not guaranteed. Once they're not guaranteed they're gonna have $1 million next year in new construction work.
For sure.
They'll pay you over dollar for dollar for your reoccurring revenue.
Yep.
So it increases the value of your organization as well, right? I mean, because that's the attractive number. We're seeing private equity enter the green industry left and right.
Right.
And I've talked to countless business owners that have sold, and they said, Kev, they don't care about your new construction number. They only care about the reoccurring revenue, and they're paying you on the reoccurring revenue, period.
Yeah.
And I think that gets overlooked in a lot of markets like I visited Texas, for example, and it's all about the install.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like it's very hard to put an evaluation on a company that's 90% of their book is new construction
Yeah.
every year.
There's another benefit here that's an extension of what we're talking about,
Okay.
so forth, and it maybe takes this even further down the road of success and why it's a benefit, and that is if your technicians are doing things time and material, just like you said, you as a company you're capped on what you can earn because you can only sell so many hours. So employees will think like that as well. They will think, hey, I'm here, I've got to replace these 5 heads. If it takes me an hour or 5 hours, I don't care. I'm getting paid for being here today. And so I'm going to take this job and I'm not going to milk it, but this will take me the rest of the day to get done. I can see that now. However, if we flip over to upfront pricing, and our company then at that point mixed in and brought in and created a profit sharing,
An incentive program?
An incentive program.
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Right. So the incentive program now says each of your vans is your own little business. And each little van has a cost to it, the labor that's inside, the materials that go in the ground and so forth, and the money that's earned by those materials and labor that go in the ground. And we're going to look at that every month and we're going to say, oh, your van made a lot of profit last month. We're going to give you part of that profit. We're going to give you 10% of that profit. And so now when fellas are putting heads in the ground and they sell 10 heads to be replaced in the ground, they could milk it all day, but it's beneficial to them to work the 10 hours they're going to work that day, but to do more work in that time frame because they're going to get their 10 hours of pay, but they're also going to get a performance bonus at the end of the month. So it also promotes efficiency in installation. The technicians, you're
cutting them in on a piece of the action.
In a sense of urgency. They want to take care of the customer. They want to do things right, but they're going to move at a swift pace because they want to earn a little extra revenue for that Christmas vacation or whatever the deal is. So
on that topic with the employees, and I love to ask everybody this question. Growing up, the old school way was, you wanted every hour you could possibly get, right? And that's just not the case anymore. And that's not, burnout's real.
That's right.
Accidents increase when you overwork employees.
Yep.
Efficiencies go down. So what would you say at JetStream, what's the average amount of hours an employee gets in a week? And what number, and I assume that number is close to the hours they want.
Yeah, it is. It is. Everybody works about 50 hours a week here. And we have a company policy of only we don't work Sundays at all, but we don't work Saturday. We only work Saturdays if you volunteer, if you want to volunteer to work on Saturday. You're not required to work on Saturday.
So
we want a good family work mix there.
How far in advance, if I work for you, how far in advance do you need from me? Like, hey, Kev, okay, it's April. Do you ask, how many Saturdays are you available in April? Is it monthly?
We put out a calendar and we ask people to sign up. We just say, if you want to work on a Saturday, you want extra hours, you want more hourly pay and more ability to make more performance bonus, sign up for some Saturdays.
Interesting.
And we do that at the start of the year for the first couple months.
Work-life balance, and this will kind of tie into the CRM piece as well. I think you told me this in the interview, and I remember it when we were talking on the phone, where you're trying to compete, right, for these employees that could get a job working at Costco.
That's right.
In the AC.
That's right.
With Benny's and everything else, right? And so I remember you saying, what can we do? You told me, Kevin, we don't interview new employees anymore. They interview us on whether or not they want to come to work here.
Yep.
And you told me one of the competitive advantages once you onboarded a CRM was that when you meet with an employee and you say, hey, what's important to you? So regular visits with your employees to find out, well, Johnny's baseball games are, and I'm kind of an assistant coach, and that's Tuesdays and Thursdays and starts at 4. Where you told me you have that ability as long as you have that data from the employee far enough in advance that you can build their work schedule around the other things that the other employers couldn't do.
Yeah, as long as we have enough advance notice. We do for sure.
What type of advance notice does that take?
Well,
Is
it's
that
usually
further
like,
out than a month?
yeah, it's usually the start of the month. We ask people to get in their requests for time off or special requests and so forth. I mean, I don't think it's a formal thing that we do anymore. We just continually ask people, if you have a request for time off, get that in, get it in on a slip, get it to your supervisor so we can schedule accordingly.
And with the profit sharing bonus structure tied into the
Yep.
upfront pricing,
Yep.
does that create a positive competitive environment at the company as well?
It does. We're still, even though we've been doing upfront pricing for 5 years now, we're still not fleshing out the upfront pricing, but trying to decide what is a healthy amount of competition between the technicians, what and as compared to what might be a little bit demeaning for some of the younger techs that aren't achieving these high numbers and so forth. So we definitely get together with each technician and we go over their numbers and show them how they did compared to how they did last time, and how help them understand their profit performance bonus.
So
Maybe,
transparency is what
yeah,
I'm
and
hearing.
maybe how they could, do better.
Yeah, because hey, do you
Yeah.
want to make money?
Yeah.
Let me help
Yeah.
coach you up.
Yeah, coach you. So we coach them up. Yeah. So yeah, and I'm aware of some of my colleague companies that post them up on the board and show everybody's numbers and stuff, and that can work. And I think it can also backfire too. I think each company and each culture and so forth that you have to decide what's right for you with regards to that.
Let's switch gears for a minute and talk about onboarding CRM. How long have you been on a CRM now? And has it always been the same one, or did you transition?
No, we've been on Hindsight since, I don't know, 2006, maybe
So you're coming up on 20
2008.
years.
Yeah,
What's the most pain for those that aren't on a CRM now that are going to listen to this?
yeah.
What's the most painful part?
The most painful part is when you got something working and it crashes, or it's not working right due to some technical glitch. Your computers, your system, your storage, your power outage, or whatever, those types of things, because then you're kind of crippled because you're relying on that. But you can protect against those things with backups and battery backups for computers and so forth. So when you're looking at a CRM, make sure that you get plenty of recommendations or referrals, read reviews and so forth of each one. How good is the support? How quick is the support, and so forth. There's, like anything, there's going to be hiccups and things along the way. We've had great success with Hindsight and with Field Central. We like it a lot. There's others out there that I said that are good, but they all are going to require a certain amount of headspace to launch that thing.
Yeah,
and get it rolling.
I remember
and so that
from
feels a bit
Mastermind.
daunting at times. Everybody in the northern half of the country has 3 or 4 months of the winter where they can't put sprinklers in the ground to onboard a CRM.
So slowest time of the year is advised.
For sure, do it.
Is it more painful for the field employees or the office staff, the onboarding process?
That's a good question. I think that has something to do with the ages of your technicians and your people. Older technicians and stuff, and older people in general, don't want to change, right? We're set in our ways. We've done things a certain way. We're comfortable with it, whatever that is. And that may be an effective way, but it's not necessarily the way of the future or the best practice and so forth. So, but we have a healthy mix of younger and middle-aged guys and so forth, and everybody. Honestly, I'm the oldest guy in the company, so everybody in the company swallows and accepts and receives new technology, new ideas much quicker than I do. And I'm the one.
I appreciate the honesty with that.
And I'm the one that's pushing it, right? So they're like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't we do this? And so we get new technicians that come in, or trainees, and they'll ride with the technician and so forth, and they'll carry the tablet, and the lead technician will kind of tell them what to do, and they're like, yeah, this is easy. Oh, I get it. Yep, just hit that. Yep, this is no problem. So it's really, in this day and age of smartphones and so forth,
Click, click, click.
Yeah, none of it's hard.
So I remember you made a statement when I interviewed you about onboarding and culture, and I want to talk a little bit on that. And I remember you said, and I quote from you often on this one, you said, number one rule, Kevin, when you're trying to bring in new employees is first take care of the ones you have.
Yeah, never lose the ones you have.
Or never lose you. So what does onboarding look like?
Yeah.
At your organization? If
Yeah.
I'm coming in, I'm green. I have
Yeah.
no experience.
Yeah.
what once you've decided, is it a solo decision by you to bring me on, or is that a collective decision by the team?
Yeah.
And then once that decision is made, what is there pregame discussions with the team about it? Because I
Yeah.
read something I think it was in a Wall Street Journal that said in the first 60 days of employment that the new employee is either doubling down on the fact that they love the company or they have or onboarding remorse and they're
Yeah.
looking to bail.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're a super small company, 15 employees and so forth. So I don't have a robust and well-defined onboarding process. There's onboarding things that we do that I think are fantastic, but it's not a set, written, detailed process that we follow because we don't have 80 employees and we're trying to hire another 10. But the hiring that goes on here, the girls receive requests for employment or applications and so forth, and we connect those young guys with who they're going to be working for, at least who we think, right? One of the foremen or one of the senior service techs, and let those guys talk. And so the service technician or the foreman can say, I size him up.
So I
feel good about him, versus the office saying, we hired a new guy, now go make him work.
Yeah, you're getting buy-in from your field employees before they're on the books.
Yeah, and we also want that new employee to give them, to build trust with them right out of the gate, to say, hey, I'm not going to sit in the office and fill your head with rainbows and stars. I'm going to have you go down and talk to our people and ask them the questions that you would want to ask them about your day-to-day work life and what it'll be like here, and whether it's, I mean, we provide ice and water and stuff for our employees and stuff. So, hey, what are the things that the company provides for us that makes our day easier or whatever? We let those guys talk about it and so forth. And I think that's a more successful approach, because as much as I want to be down to earth with that new guy coming in and so forth, he's going to resonate more with the guys that he's rubbing shoulders with every day.
Yeah, he's not in the truck with you. He might love you, but if he doesn't like Bob that's teaching him.
Yeah, so that's part of how we do that. Yeah. And then we just bring them in, and like many companies, they'll ride with a guy in a van for a week, or they'll work on the install crew for a week or a month or whatever, and we see where their aptitudes lie and so forth, and we reposition them and so forth. But there's got to be a lot of training.
How long does it take to get somebody where you consider them fully onboarded in terms of service technician? Is it a time? I mean, I guess the timeline's different with different people.
It sure is. Yeah, it sure is. Yeah.
Do you rely 100% on feedback from senior service technicians as to when? Okay, Kevin's. I talked to Bob, and Bob said Kevin's good.
Yeah.
He can go. He can go turn on some
it's
service.
Not. I don't think it's all that complicated, because there's a mix of, he's riding with senior technicians. There's the simple things like, hey, every time we get to a job, he jumps out immediately and goes to work. He just gets out, he opens the doors, he gets out a shovel. He doesn't even know what he's doing yet, but he's in action, right? So there's those basic things that we get excited about, and that's somebody that's eager and operates with a sense of purpose, right? So there's that. But when those senior technicians are working with him, I told him once, and that's it. He's been doing it ever since. Versus I told him once, I told him again, right? So we get that feedback from the guys, but also from the customers, right? So if there's a technician and he's been launched on his own, he's still younger, but he's on his own, and he can't seem to get those wiring problems taken care of, or that wire locating, or that plumbing, or he shies away from, or he incompletes a work order that was a plumbing job or something, then that indicates to us, hey, he needs some more training in the plumbing area, or maybe he needs to ride with somebody a little bit longer.
How do you look at training? I mean, is it 100% just field experience with senior technicians, or are there things that you look at and say, geez, we really need to work on valve repair or wire locating as an organization, and then do you carve out time to do those things?
Yeah. No, we really
it's rough
don't.
in a seasonal market.
Yeah, we do a lot of. There's tons of on-the-job stuff, and that's how you learn this field. You can sit and look at books all day, and you won't understand how to wire track something by looking at a book. So it's tons of in the field experience and so forth. And currently we have about 4 senior techs and 4 junior techs. When we say senior and junior, I would say those senior techs all have more than 15 years experience in irrigation. Most of them 15 years with us. And the newer guys, the junior techs, those are technicians that have been a technician for about 5 years or less. Okay. And there's that cluster of guys and so forth. So we often will pair a junior with a senior tech when the project's a little bigger, and those junior techs learn from the senior techs and so forth. And that's a really good way to hand the mantle or hand off the baton and so forth to those younger guys is through the 2 decades of experience or 3 decades of experience of a service technician, sharing that with those younger guys and so forth.
One of the things that I admire about you and your company is you're huge in networking with other business owners. You know what I mean? Like, I think the most tactical advantage any company can give themselves, regardless of business, is peer groups and networking. And growing up in supply chain, I'd go to in distribution, we'd hold these big meetings, and nobody talked to each other. and they were like, hey, they wouldn't even bring their guys because they're afraid somebody's going to bird dog their guys at these functions. And I always encourage people, like, find somebody in the room who you don't directly compete with. Exchange business cards and circle wagons quarterly, because the peer groups, you got to get vulnerable, right? You're getting in a room and essentially you're getting naked to a certain degree, right? And but you got to figure everybody in the room is probably doing at least one thing better than everybody else. And a rising tide raises all ships.
That's right?
I have yet to meet someone that has attended a peer group and said it was a bad deal. When did you start? Have you always been that way? Or was there
I've always been looking.
You're very outgoing that way.
Yeah, so I've always been looking. I think my feeling on this is that people that run their own business, and this is my opinion, people that run their own business have a certain sense of ego. It's different for everybody, but to run your own business, you're betting on you. You're betting on yourself. You're saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen. My pay will become effective when I am. My company will be successful if I show up every day and unlock the door and get the guys going, or whatever it is, right? So I think there's a lot of business owners out there that have big egos. And I'm not saying I do, but there are a lot of people that do. They have big egos. And because of that, they don't feel they need to ask for anybody's help. They don't feel they need to know what he's doing because they got it down. They got it figured out, and so forth. And as I look along out onto the irrigation and the landscape market in Michigan, I know some of those owners that they don't need anybody. They can do it on their own. They don't need seminars. They don't need networking with others and so forth. And they're certainly successful to a degree, but I believe they'd be more successful if they did reach out.
In all the years you've been in business, how many changes has your organization made based upon outside feedback?
For sure, hundreds. Yeah, for sure. I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but I remember my shop teacher in 8th grade said you can learn a lot from other people's mistakes. But my example is when I was growing up with my little brother turned on the stove and that the coils turned red hot.
Oh,
and he said,
I've done that
I
with
wonder
my
what
forearm.
I wonder what that's like. And he touched it with his finger. And he said, I stood and I watched my brother basically burn the skin off the end of his finger. He said, lesson learned. Never needed to do that, right? I never had to find out for myself, right? That's a garish example of why we should look to other people that are more successful than us. And if they'll share some information with us, we should listen.
That's what I was drinking from the fire hose at that mastermind conference. And that was where I loved it, because when different topics came up, and somebody's like, what do you think about that? There was always at least one person that could either expand on it in a positive way or say, pump the brakes, fellas, hold on. And then say, I tripped on that. You know what I mean? But at least they got it out there. So then it was a topic of conversation going, okay, Could it have been done successfully differently? Maybe in the, when you have
Yeah.
a peer group of 10 heads are better than one type
For sure.
thing,
For
and,
sure.
and from that, there were people like, oh, I'm going to give that a second look.
Yeah.
But I mean, in that conference, what do we have? 27 companies, and there was only one in the room that didn't have a CRM, and he immediately stepped in the confessional box. It was funny because he bought the company like 3 years earlier, and he goes, I know. He said he said what his profit margin was,
Yeah.
and it was impressive, and his customer retention level was as well. And he goes, but I still know I need to do it, and I know it, and I know I'm going to make more money as a byproduct.
I'm shocked to even think that somebody wouldn't have a CRM. I don't know how you could even do it.
Yeah,
I mean unless you have 20 clients or something, 20 customers.
I mean, any CRM is better than none. There was a guy at that mastermind conference running a $5.5 million book on Jobber.
Yeah.
And he's like, it works.
Yeah.
But it pains me, especially when I was in supply chain. You see good companies, owner operators performing good work for their customers, and they would get in the rears with us at the supply house. And it was because when they came home at the end of the day, the wife and kids are staring at them, and they're going, invoice the customers that I just did work for today, or spend time with family.
Yeah.
Family always wins, as it should.
Yeah.
But having a CRM, you got their credit card on file. Boom, you're getting paid as soon as the job's done. Cash flow.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's where I saw, from a distributor perspective, when companies made the move from paper to CRM, suddenly they always paid their bill on time.
Well, and that CRM does the job of remembering for you.
Yeah, I only can remember like 4 things a day, and don't ask anything in the afternoon because it gets cloudy.
In the simplest sense, having a planner is taking appointments that you have to do on Thursday and next Tuesday and next Friday, and committing them to paper, so the paper and the book will remember those for you, and you can use your mind for more important things like thinking and organizing and planning
in the future.
Yeah, and so that now that part's done, that's taken off and you're not walking around all day going, what is it I have to do tomorrow? What is that I have to do tomorrow? Same thing's true with the CRM. Once you log all those things in there about the customers, and you capture their data and how big their sprinkler system is and where the timer is located, and all those things are there in the system. One technician goes there, he updates it a little bit, adds something new or doesn't. Some new technician's never been there before, looks at it and says, timer's here, vacuum breaker's there. Oh, let me just scroll this because there's a wiring issue. Oh, I see last year they had a problem with this zone. This year it's this zone. All these things in a CRM and so forth.
They got their head around the whole job, and they've never been there.
So highly valuable. Yeah.
Without question. Well, Kurt, on behalf of myself and everybody listening, I want to say thank you.
Yeah,
because this was very, very informal.
Thanks for coming to chat.
No, my pleasure. It's been a lot of information to absorb, but all of it in a positive way. I mean, like the spirit of Trench Talk is a rising tide raises all ships.
That's right.
And the goal is to make our industry better as a whole. So on behalf of myself and the industry, I want to thank you for your contribution.
You're welcome.
today, and I know they'll find value in it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.